the opportunity to pursue the American or the worldwide dream to be rich. Another benefit to opening up resources gathering to the general public is people won't require aid from others to maintain themselves, acting as a safety net. People would now know they always have a means to income and or survival if need be. Imagine if when the Great Depression happened, natural resource gathering was an open public job. I won't debate if it would have even happened in the first place, but it probably wouldn't. So during that tragedy, most commercial, industrial, and financial institutions weren't hiring or even open. People flooded soup kitchens, slept in the streets, and tried to find work anywhere. But let's say um, President Hoover nationalized the natural resources, and now people can farm, fish, ranch, or lumberjack for their own needs so they don't have to starve or go cold, ensuring their survival. Then, when the economy picks up, they can use those same resources to further themselves in the luxuries of life. Sounds simple enough? That's because it is. If you didn't restrict people from using their knowledge and abilities to care for themselves and also others freely, then they would, then they will, then they will. And tragedies such as the Great Depression will be inexistent unless the earth somehow stopped producing, in which case we'd all be in trouble. We know natural resources are the base for every single product created. So if gathering resources to sell isn't advantageous to someone, doing it to produce things to meet your own needs would be an option, and nothing would block you. What did block people from getting resources to meet their needs during the Great Depression? For one, privatization. The public masses couldn't go to lands to reap from the benefit because it was declared private property, which restricted ownership of vast resources to a few people. If the public encroached on private property to take resources, even if they weren't being used, the law enforcers would not be on their side. That left people to choose from breaking the law to try to live better or survive, or not risking your freedom and struggling or possibly dying. We shouldn't have to make that choice. The next thing that kept people from from resources was money. The public lost it in stock and loan payments, which kicked off the Great Depression. But besides literally misplacing money, it is never lost, just transferred. So the richest people in the nation, the ones that owned the companies and the lands, had all this money that the masses gave them. But now the masses can't buy their products as before. Hence, now they cut jobs because people are not buying products. After the masses lost their jobs, we had a Great Depression. Money is meant to flow, but put too much in the hands of a few and it will more or less stagnate, being as they will only purchase so much from a small variety. And investments from the rich aren't as potent in stimulating the economy. So few have money to buy goods and jobs that pay them. Plus the capitalist mind state is if you don't turn a profit, no need to produce or work for people who can't afford it. But these people still had needs, and given an opportunity to produce for themselves, I'm sure they'd be more than willing to work in resource gathering. The current system calls for you to buy land, which is an investment that you want to recoup. Also, you are taxed for that land, which adds to the overhead of a company. Now, in order to live in a society with a strong military, transportation network, and other social services, when you're using money, taxes are necessary. But if the government could profit off natural resources, it would ease or alleviate that burden on the working people. The system wouldn't require the purchase of land to reap the benefits, to reap the goods from it, which would rid the price hike to recover such an investment, and also give all people, regardless of class, a fair opportunity. Now you see that without the money prerequisite, work can get done and profits and people's needs can be fulfilled. All they have to do is be able and willing and available. The only investment is time, energy, and maybe some light tools and to get resources to trade or consume. Money stagnation is why producers didn't produce what people needed. Money stagnation was why resources people needed to survive sat unused because people could not buy the land it sat on. Money stagnation is why people were kicked out of homes to wallow in the streets and homes fit for living left uninhabited. All because a few had the bulk of the money and held on to it without reinvesting or sharing back to the public. Because all the money that was there when everybody had it and the economy was good was still there, just not in the hands of the people that needed it. People went to soup kitchens, homeless shelters, and begged for money to survive then. Altruism was at an all-time high, and that was a great test of strength for humanity. But why should you lose your dignity and degrade yourself to get what the earth gives freely? On the other hand, why should someone spend time getting things to give to someone that is well capable to get it themselves? Just look at it in your own personal life. I don't want to feed someone when they can feed themselves, and I don't want to be fed by someone when I can feed myself. But governments do this through welfare programs, and rightfully so. In fact, there should be way more welfare given out to people. How's that? Because they took the only guaranteed free jobs we were entitled to and siphoned them off to others so they could provide that resource for us. But we don't get it just by effort as alone as we would in nature. We need money. Now we are forced to put our effort into some other venture to collect collateral to trade for what we need. But as I stated before, we aren't guaranteed a job from anyone else in this system, nor a wage that we may feel we deserve. Not only are we not guaranteed it, but we are not entitled to it as we are in nature. So they block the guaranteed job and set it up to where we must proposition ourselves for something that isn't guaranteed. So if that doesn't fall through, we should be guaranteed the welfare. How much? Well, although the work is, let's say, 98% guaranteed, granted that the earth provides enough for all the work, the pay isn't. What you can make off of resources varies on circumstances like how much resources are available from the start or left by others that are taken. What's the value of the good that you're getting and who's buying what and how much. Also, how much time and effort and intelligence someone put into it. You could you could be one just getting by, or you could be the richest person in the nation. Since the hindrance won't let us find out which one you would be, welfare should compensate for that. But I say all that welfare stuff in vain because I'd rather have my shot at being a man who got rich off of his abilities. Republicans believe everyone should work. I mean, a lot of people believe everyone should work and also have a shot to be filthy rich and keep that wealth. As do I. Democrats or maybe more socialists like to distribute wealth of the people, the working people, to give handouts to all in need and believe we should all be more equal, which is moral and just. But I don't understand how people that have all the corporations and have all the wealth and resources and perceive power already are asking others to work their way up so they can have when they have all the control of it already. That's kind of absurd to me. Democrats want to spoon feed people, but only table scraps to keep them alive. While they are doing good for people and gaining constituents, this perceived safety net can entangle some, like in limiting their growth potential. Social programs and educational grants are more on the right track as they are investments in people's futures. But what truly needs to be done is to deregulate or free up the natural resource gathering sites so entrepreneurs can apply themselves to a low level, high yield potential industry, giving us all a chance to get what the rich have by fair trade instead of redistribution, leaving a lazy man with no excuse to leech off of others and a chance to be rich. As compared to this system that forces some of their people to collect scraps and recyclables for chump change. If you're a Republican or a capitalist or whatever, you must believe in free markets and fair competition. It is illegal for government to prop up one business over others. So why do they give out work available free for all to an individual or company that is willing to pay the most for wrongs, not rights, to work the land? As we've seen in public utilities, electric, gas, cable, and furthermore, and a telephone, which are mostly, if not all, privately owned, there is great infrastructure invested that needs to be recouped by the company to turn a profit. Although we could have multiple companies using this infrastructure in one area by adding more wires or pipes or poles to the poles or underground, a certain amount of potential customers is needed to get positive revenue. And to add to the infrastructure just to offer a competitive service is a wasteful use of resources and inefficient. That is one of the rare cases where I believe efficiency and resource consideration can have a valid argument. That is one of the rare cases where I believe efficiency and resource consideration can have a valid argument to monopolize and limit competition. No city wants 10 different gas or water companies with separate pipes available underground. There can be a better use for that metal, and space to hang pipes and wires will run out eventually, so competition will be limited anyways. But unlike utilities, natural resources don't require infrastructure. Natural resources is not a service, but an agricultural or industrial type operation. So if intentions are securing a resource gathering company's revenue margin, that is corrupt, seeing as the only investment was the land they paid for, which should have been free to the company and to all people. You can state the importance of the commodities industry and providing these raw goods to market to keep the rest of the economic cogs turning. But you cannot tell me that by adding more workers to the industry, as whimsical and fickle as their commitments may be, can lead to a decreased number in production. Let me say that over. But you cannot tell me that by adding more workers to the industry, as whimsical and fickle as their commitments may be, can lead to a decreased numbers in production. As I will show in the detailed explanation of how each site works, heavy equipment zones as well as hand tool zones will be in operation, so the productivity of heavy equipment won't be hindered. Government will compete to a degree alongside others in the commodities market, so the burden and investment overhead of the heavy equipment will be bared by the government as well. Plus, in some cases, it will be a shared tool for all to use. Even if you pay for money, even if you pay for heavy equipment, you wouldn't lose revenue by having it idle from time to time. So we determined there's no infrastructure needed, and privatizing